All right, everyone. Gerry from Arena Decklists here, and we got a nice one. Can we break Splendid Reclamation? Will Urker laid out the groundwork for this deck when Pioneer first was announced. Card Hoarder set us up with loan accounts so we can use all the cards in Pioneer. And I don't know, we got a bunch of dope lands to return with Splendid Reclamation. So can we do it? I don't know. We'll find out. But Will built this deck. Shout outs to him, and also shout outs to Michael Majors, I guess, for having a kind of ridiculous love affair / obsession with Splendid Reclamation. Will picked up on that, just kind of ran with it. And since Field of the Dead decks have been a little bit more popular, they've been iterated upon. People have tried out a bunch of weird lands like Westvale Abbey. Sam Black put this in his green-black Hour of Promise deck, which might actually be the best deck in the format right now, which is kind of wild. And this is a pretty nice way to actually close out the game, or at least like lock up a game against aggressive decks once you have cast Hour of Promise and have made some zombies. So the Westvale Abbey has slotted in nicely. This deck is doing some other weird things where Radiant Fountain, I don't understand why people are not playing with this. This helps so much. It stabilizes you. I mean, people are playing like the life gain lands. I don't get it. Like the ETB tap ones, the bad ones. Like Radiant Fountain is fine. This deck also has a Mystic Sanctuary to potentially rebuy Splendid Reclamation. And this is like kind of a sweet card to get with Hour of Promise too, assuming you have 3 islands, which is, it's a tall order, not gonna lie, but I feel like late game, having access to this thing could actually come up. In the early game, it might just screw us over, we'll see. Also have a random Lumbering Falls. Having Miser's creature land seems decent, and we're trying to just play like one of basically all of our lands to maximize Field of the Dead anyway, so Lumbering Falls is a pretty decent dual land. And then since we are filling our graveyard for the Reclamation, I have an Ipnu Rivulet. I don't know if this is ever going to come up. We'll see. And then Kane Reinhardt was playing a Crumbling Vestige in his version of the green-black deck, and actually ended up being pretty good for him because he was able to use that alongside things like Fatal Push and Thoughtseize, whereas I have Magma Spray and Magmatic Insight, so it's a little bit different. But yeah, basically this deck is trying to ramp a little bit, but you also have things like Pieces of the Puzzle to put cards into the graveyard. You Splendid Reclamation, get all that stuff back, and this is like the best ramp spell that you could possibly imagine for this deck. And to help get things in the graveyard alongside Pieces of the Puzzle, we have Izzet Charm, which is just like pretty decent. I mean, it's an okay removal spell, a decent counter spell against any sort of combo deck or deck that's trying to resolve like a 4-mana card basically, and it allows you to filter through a bunch of excess lands. So does Magmatic Insight, and the first responses to Magmatic Insight were basically that they didn't like it, but I actually do like this. I think the problem that people had with it was that they're not playing enough land, and I've increased that number to 30 and also just like shaved an Insight, because if you don't have enough lands to discard 2 Insight, then you certainly don't have enough lands to discard to the second Magmatic Insight. But as far as like doing what the deck is trying to do, Insight is the best card. And also have a couple Search for Scannas. These help fill our graveyard, and also work pretty well with the other ways to fill our graveyard, where we get to transform this pretty quickly. And then it's just kind of off to the races from there. I mean, you're like, all of your cards are findable with Search for Scanta outside of the lands, obviously, but then like the other cards are going to find you things that get you lands, so Search is quite good in this deck. And then the reason I actually like this deck right now, and were I not lazy, I would have woken up this morning and actually played it in a Magic Online PTQ. I set my alarm and everything. I built this deck. I had it ready to go, but just 2 hours of sleep felt like it was necessary, you know? Anyway, I like Magma Spray and Anger of the Gods in a metagame that is infested with mono-black aggro. I do feel like the key to kind of succeeding in this format and beating those decks are having ways to ignore their recursive creatures. Either what you're doing just kind of ignores them entirely, or you have ways to actually remove them without a disadvantage. So having Spray and Anger of the Gods as your removal spells are pretty nice. And then sideboard, pretty straightforward. A couple Jotty offshoots for aggro. Unravel the Aether for Darksteel Citadel that has become a 5/5. Crumble to Dust for the mirror matches. Some negates. A couple Aether Gusts for big green creatures because our current removal suite does not handle them very well. We just have a bunch of like shocks and 3 damage things, so removing those things is actually pretty tough. And then Tireless Trackers as the card that allows you to sidestep a little bit in post-board games. So, are we breaking it today? Is this the day? It's close. I think it's going to be close. We'll see.